I don't know if everyone heard about this. There was a shooter in Idaho who decided to just go guns blazing on firefighters. Really bizarre, random, wild, but was it random? Was there something in particular that maybe provoked the shooter? Maybe they had a motive and there was something behind that. Maybe it's all connected. Let's get into this story here. Again, very crazy. Police in Idaho say a gunman started a brush fire so he could ambush firefighters. Total setup. Check this out.
The breaking news: a suspected sniper found dead, and now a massive investigation is really just getting underway after what the sheriff says started as an emergency response to a brush fire turned into an ambush on first responders in Idaho. 2 firefighters were killed. The sheriff says a third firefighter was also shot and is still fighting for his life. Calls into emergency dispatch in the midst of it paint a terrifying scene of the moments they realized that they were under attack.
Some law enforcement right now, there's an active shooter zone. They're shot. BC3's down, BC1's down. Everybody's shot up here. Law enforcement, code 3 now up here.
Okay, let's pause here for a second and we can look at what they were saying. So this was the dispatch audio in Idaho. So let me just make this very clear again. This gunman started a brush fire because obviously if you start a brush fire, you're going to have to someone's going to call 911 and the firefighters are going to show up. And the firefighters showed up and then he just went guns blazing on these firefighters. Now, we've heard some stories in time. We've heard people, having guns blazing at they've gone after police and there's usually a motive, right? We've had school shootings in this country, too many to count. But this was the first time I heard of someone going after firefighters. So I thought this was a little bit strange, but there's more to this story. Check this out.
Down. Everybody's shot up here. Law enforcement, code 3 now up here.
The ambush sparked a huge response from law enforcement. More than 300 officers from various agencies and neighboring counties were all called up to help. At one point, officers exchanged gunfire with the suspect, but it was more than 6 hours after that first fire call that his body was found. This morning, fire crews are still working to contain the fire that he allegedly started, still burning on Idaho's Canfield Mountain. CNN's Julia Vargas Jones is live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho with the very latest. What are you learning?
Good morning, Kate. Well, the plan today from authorities is to go back to that location where the body of the shooter was found for further investigations. What are they looking for? They're looking for more weapons and more ammunition that gunman may or may not have had with him. Now, they had to remove the body from the location relatively quickly, they said last night in a press conference, because of the threat of that fire. So we have not learned any further details about who this gunman was or what were the weapons that he had with him. But we did hear from the sheriff of Kootenai County here in Coeur d'Alene talking about the very nature of this attack and what that was like for the firefighters that were responding on the scene.
This was a total ambush. These firefighters did not have a chance. When you have an environment where you don't know where the bullets are coming from because of the trees and the shrubbery and what have you, it is daunting for police officers, let alone firefighters who are there just to put out the fire.
So they didn't even know where the shots were coming from. So that's another part, right? Now, I've never seen Idaho in the news before, so I was kind of shocked by this story. I was like, this happened where? Don't know much about it. Only thing I know about Idaho is that there's potatoes, right? So they grow potatoes. I know about that. But just very interesting. You guys keep seeing these escalation of these lone gunman stories or these type of attacks that are happening since 2025 started. You guys notice that there seems to be an increase since 2025 started. And again, it makes you wonder what is happening, right? This is why when people say that America is not a violent country, or they say this is not who we are, this is why I disagree with that. That is exactly what America is. America is a violent country. Hell, has been violent as long as I can remember, So I don't know why people sound surprised when they say, oh my God, I can't believe this would happen and such and such. This is a violent country. Now, there's, again, like I said, there's a little bit more to the story that we're going to get into in just a second. Check this out.
Unimaginable, Kate, what these firefighters went through. And now this community is also left with so many questions as the investigation continues in the coming days. Now, I do want to share with you one interesting detail is that authorities did use his cell phone, the shooter's cell phone, to ping his location. And as you mentioned, they had exchanged fire with him, but that for another 90 minutes is how they tried to triangulate him until he eventually was neutralized. We don't know how he died at this time, but that fire in that location continues to burn. It is now called the Nettleton Gulch Fire, and authorities will be going up today as daylight breaks here.
So I just want to jump in and I want to say something. When I first heard about this story the other day, I thought to myself, I hope this doesn't make firefighters afraid now. I hope firefighters because a lot of times there are firefighters that are volunteers. We have firefighters here in Massachusetts that they're not paid. They're volunteers. And it just makes you wonder, like, if they heard the story, are they going to be somewhat fearful? Because, again, like I said, why would you go after firefighters? Well, this could be part of the reason. I think you guys need to see this. Check this out. Suspected Idaho shooter showed Nazi tendencies in school, ex-classmates say. So check this out, and then we're going to connect this to another story, and this could be part of the reason. But I think you guys need to know about what was happening apparently in this area of Idaho. So it says the man accused of fatally shooting 2 firefighters in an ambush in rural Idaho on Sunday had Nazi tendencies in school. In school, sketched pictures of guns and swastikas in a notebook and was obsessed with guns, 3 former classmates told USA Today. At a news conference Monday afternoon, Kootenai County Sheriff Bob Norris identified the suspected gunman as West Raleigh, 20 years old. The discovery of Raleigh's body on Canfield Mountain, a popular hiking destination outside of the city of Coeur d'Alene, culminated 6 hours of chaos that saw about 300 local, state, and federal officers flock to the area. It appears Raleigh took his own life. Kootenai County Fire and Rescue Chief Frank Harwood and Coeur d'Alene Fire Department Battalion Chief John Morrison were identified by officials on Monday as the fallen firefighters. Officials also identified the injured firefighter as Coeur d'Alene Fire Department Dave Tisdall. Authorities in Idaho were trying to determine the motive behind the deadly shooting. Lost my place, sorry. Oh, here we go. The motive behind the deadly shooting. Harry Stanley, who told USA Today that he attended school with Raleigh, said he and his friends were upset by Sunday's attack in the mountains of Idaho. None of us have had any contact with him for years. I'm just really sad about what happened. So, yeah. So again, goes on to say here, this is coming from Harry, who attended middle school and high school with Raleigh. He said, my good friend saw drawings of swastikas and guns in his notebook. We were all pretty scared of him. Dieter Denon, who attended elementary, middle, and high school with him, also remembered the swastika drawing incident. Denon said he always thought Raleigh's comments and activity were just the actions of a kid being edgy. We all thought that he was just messing around, that was his way of trying to stand out. Stanley said he remembers Raleigh left high school in the middle of sophomore year. He said he believes Raleigh was expelled after some trouble with a girl. Raleigh came to school one day with a buzz cut and said he wanted to join ROTC. He described his former classmate as a funny guy, but with few close friends. Everybody just thought he was weird. He was also obsessed with guns. So here's something that was kind of strange. There was another incident. Let me make this a little bit larger. First and foremost, I didn't even know that Idaho had like a lot of white supremacists there like that, but apparently, yeah, it does. And there was another incident that happened approximately 24 years ago, the same day that he shot and killed those firefighters. Check this out. After firefighter ambush, Idaho commissioner rejects focus on white nationalism. So see, the firefighter commissioner doesn't want to focus on that. Says, no, 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 no. Let's not focus. So check this out. The motive for the attack, which occurred at Canfield Mountain Recreation Area near Coeur d'Alene, remains unknown. But some national media outlets speculated that it could be connected with white nationalist anti-government sentiment in a part of the state that has been a hotbed of such ideology. Jim Kavanaugh, a retired special agent with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, he relayed this message to MSNBC. So I think that's kind of important for people to know. That part right there. Wait for it, though. Check this out. Peep this. It's just a historical fact that there's been some anti-government sentiment heavy in that area, leading towards white supremacy. Kavanaugh added, that doesn't mean that this case is tied to that. This could be anything at all. So I don't know why, but I think it wants me to subscribe right now, and I'm not going to do that. So I was able to view this earlier. Let's see if it'll let me come back in without subscribing, because I read it before. And okay, so I'll pull it up somewhere else. I'll pull up the other one because I think you guys need to see this. This is important. The case that they tied it to before. Okay. See if we can come in here. Okay, check this out. So we are going to share it from here because I think people need to hear this part. Can everybody see it okay? I'll make it bigger. All right. Peep this, fam. He told the Idaho Statesman to that area's history as the home of the Aryan Nations, a neo-Nazi group. In the 1970s, the group's founder, Richard Butler, created a compound near Hayden Lake. Now, this is outside of Coeur d'Alene. Now, that area drew neo-Nazis and white supremacists for conferences and training. Let's continue to go on a little bit more. The group created anti-Semitic graffiti and escalated to violent attacks. Tony Stewart, one of the founders of the Katuni County Task Force on Human Relations, previously told the Statesman, one of its offshoots, called the Order, placed a homemade bomb under the kitchen of Boise's congregation, the Ahavath Israel Synagogue, hijacked an armored truck and murdered a radio show host. But those days are long past. So I thought it was important that people hear this part of the story. And it goes on to say here that Coeur d'Alene human rights activists, with the help of Southern Poverty Law Center, bankrupted and ousted the Aryan Nations from its Hayden Lake compound in 2001. But echoes of similar ideology have remained. In 2022, white supremacists rallied at Hayden Lake. Later that year, 31 members of the white supremacist Patriot Front group were arrested on suspicion of conspiring to riot at an LGBTQ plus pride event. Huh? Okay, let's go on a little bit more. After the arrest, then Coeur d'Alene Mayor Jim Hammond said, "We're not going back to the days of the Aryan nations. We are past that. We were able to completely rid ourselves of that group and the kind of awful culture that they were trained to present to our community." But it goes on to say here, longstanding Cottonee County residents recall a time when white supremacists marched openly down the street, said Mateer, who moved to the area in 2013. They were very visible. These days, he said, if it exists in their basement or in their minds. So I do think it is important that this part of the story is brought up, considering that they said that, the classmates said that he was drawing swastikas and that type of stuff. I do think it's important for people to have more parts of this because it could be connected. Now, we don't know for sure, but that is something I think that people should be well aware of. That fire, that particular area, that Hayden area I was just talking about, there was an event there, which I was trying to show you on that article, but these stupid people want to paywall everything. Sorry. There was another thing that was mentioned, that there was an incident before, approximately 24 years ago, from the same day that he fired at those officers, where one of the, I guess, outposts or whatever, one of the homes, the cabins for like the Aryan organization was burned to the ground. So some people said there could be some connection to that. I don't know, but I will say this. It's very strange that someone would just decide to do that to firefighters. And not only that, the fact that he intentionally set a fire to lure them to come out so that he could kill them. It's crazy things, you guys. Crazy things that are happening. But it makes you wonder, huh? Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.